I'm sure you probably say this or sometime in your life. Oh, don't like politics. I'm sick of politics. Don't like politicians at all. I got you. I understand what you're saying. But we forget that, or we are not aware that politics play a really important role in our lives. Whether we like it, whether we don't like it, we tend to drink politics. When we walk, politics. When we listen to music, politics. Politics is almost everywhere. At home, politics. The way you speak to your children, the way you speak to your husband, how you treat these member families, your friends. Politics has become one of those things that define almost every aspect of our lives and continue to do so because of many decisions and policies that politicians tend to push to be implemented for the society to adapt it. So I get it when you say these things. This is the reason why when you see us bring topics that has a link or that seems political, this is one of the reasons. This is not because this podcast is here to discuss politics. Sometimes you also say, oh, I don't give a damn about what the president of France is talking about, what is happening in Brazil. I understand. But the reality is this world is now like a small garden. Any decision that is made in a particular country or any problem that is happening in one country can have a negative or positive impact where you are. Not just in your country, but it can affect or can impact how you live your life. This is why this is important. A decision made by a president in the US, for example, can change the way you educate your children at home, because when there is a policies pushed out there, that is going to start from the global level and it's going to end up in your country one day. And politicians and the lawmakers in your country, they will pass laws and policies that will change, let's say, for example, at school, the way your children learn, the way you speak to your children, the way you do business. This is why it's not because we love politics or we are politicians, but because it's part of who we are. Our life is depending more and more on politics. And whether this is cool or whether this is not good, the power that politicians are gaining to push for change of policies and the laws is becoming enormous, and it's not great at all, because culture, traditions, religions, all these other things that are supposed to help us develop to have morals are being pushed to accept the things that they shouldn't accept, to obey things that we shouldn't obey. And this is the reason why we bring podcasts like these to exchange thoughts with you, so that you don't always fall into a trap, because sometimes you do things and you don't think that can have consequence in your life, or you think, oh, it's just happening in Tanzania, it's nothing to do with me, it's just happening in Brazil, it's nothing to do with me. No, it could be something to do with you. If something is destroying the planet, that can have a great implication or can have a big change in your life. Hello, welcome to Ondunda Tree. My name is Balozi and I'm happy you are here on this podcast. You are at the right place at the right time. Let me tell you a little bit about Ondunda Tree if you don't know yet. But if you already know about Ondunda Tree, that's great. I just want to say welcome back. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you are following this podcast again. You know what it is. Continue to be part of us. Continue to spread this message. Continue to let other people listen to this voice. We're sharing this voice without any payment, any reward, because we believe in what we believe in. But if you are new here, I just want to tell you, Ondunda Tree is a platform that aims to educate common sense and wisdom. We are here to exchange thoughts. Why common sense and wisdom? Because we realize that we have done so many great things in our lives, but yet we have faced so many problems. Even though we have come with many solutions, we have also created many problems. And some of these problems that we have faced many years ago, we continue to face them. And we cannot fix them, not because we don't have the solution, but sometimes it's because we choose not to resolve these problems, and this depends on several reasons, whether this is because of our interests mean our own gain, or we are not interested because it's not affecting us, it's nothing to do with us. And these continue to be problems. So here we speak about common sense and wisdom. We look at events that have taken place, we look at decisions that have been taken by people, we look at how we live our lives, our behavior, particularly the things we do as a human being, and talk about some of those things. There are a lot of things that you might think they are normal, they are great, but in reality you have not thought about them. We might have to think about them, whether it's just the way you walk. Why do we walk a particular walk? This is how we do things here. We touch on things that sometimes you have not thought about. So whenever you are here, your brain won't leave empty. Today we are going to talk about Donald Trump. And our title of this topic is Donald Trump, or Trump, a good enemy. Can an enemy be a good person in your life? We will answer that. Why are we saying Trump a good enemy? We are going to look at the coming of Trump in his second term. Since his coming, there have been a lot of decisions taken by Trump himself and his administration and the world. The decisions that Trump has made are having an impact on many countries, and this forces other countries to change or to also make decisions that has an impact on their relationship with the US or relationship with other countries. Is his coming a wake-up call? Is Trump harming the world, or is Trump providing solution to the world? This is how this conversation is based on, and you come to learn certain things that you have not thought about. So pay attention to this conversation, because you have seen so many things that Trump has been doing, and some countries are not happy. Individuals have been affected. There are policies that have been put in place that seems to affect some particular group, and there are people who like that because certain things that he has brought are things that other people did not agree about them being there. As you already know, we are a school of common sense. Here, we don't tend to lean on one particular side. I always say, if you want to understand something, try to remove your emotions. Separate your personal emotions to what you are trying to learn, what you're hearing. Even if you already know what you know, just listen. That is the best way. And then after you understand what the person is saying, then you can see whether what you had in mind in the first place, you were right or you were wrong. That's how an open-minded person understands things. So let's dive into this conversation. Who is Trump? I'm sure you already know who Donald Trump is, right? He is the 45th and 47th president of the United States of America. He was the 45th president. After his first term, didn't win the election for the second term. Therefore, Biden took the office and became the president. And then in 2024, Trump again won the election, which brought him back as the president for the second time. We try to simplify things here. This is something else that I did not mention at the beginning. You already know who Trump is in terms of politics, but Trump was never a politician. Trump was a businessman and managed to win election in the US. Happy days. Many were happy, many people were not happy. His coming brought joy for some people and brought sadness. He passed through some of the very difficult time. He had several cases that came about him being arrested, about rape, about politics in terms of election, cheating, about his supporters trying to attack other politicians in government buildings, and so on. Somehow you never see a politician in the US who has been through many cases like Trump and is still elected as a president once again. He survived 2 attempts of assassination, and we don't know the other one that may have taken place behind the scene. Since then, you could see that he was going to be a different Donald Trump. He was more calm. He wasn't just saying anything in his campaign. Comparing to the first time when he was campaigning to become a president, there was something that looked like he was going to be different, or a different man, or he was a more calm man comparing to the first term that he served. You may agree or may not agree with it. Listen, I don't expect you to agree with everything I said. Just use your common sense. That's the aim of this podcast, is to ask you to always think about what you hear. Don't take everything as it comes. Don't just agree with everything, even if it's your father who is saying what he's saying. I'm not saying you should not obey to what your father said, what your mother said. I'm saying that you have to think, you have to take in great consideration about what they are saying, and think about what you hear from them or anybody else deeply by first removing your emotions. Your emotion is like, I don't like what my daddy just said. That's the emotion. Just think about what your dad said and what does that mean, and then you can come to the reality of whether you like it or not, whether it's true or he lied or what it is, right? So Trump survived 2 assassination attempts, and somehow, thanks God, we're still with him as we are talking at the time of this podcast. We are in April 2025. So you can see this is a man already, his journey didn't start too great in the second term. We are going then to look at some of the policies or decisions that Trump has taken since coming to office, and some of those that is aiming to implement. Some of these might already been implemented and they are taking place. Some of them are waiting for other decisions. We are just trying to understand what he has come with and how the world have reacted to this. And then we will look at what does this mean to you, to your country, to the world. Whether this is great, good for who, bad for who. Remember, we are looking at Donald Trump, a good enemy. Okay, before looking at some of the decisions that Donald Trump has implemented or some of the policies that he has passed or aiming to pass, it is important to know that there are many people out there, not just in the US, who don't like Trump, particularly politicians. This includes institutions out there. But I just also want to say that the same reason that people dislike Trump for is the same reason those who like him for. Did you get what I said? Isn't that politics? Because politicians are people who say things, right? And the things they say, I am going to do this, I am going to do that. Whenever they decide that they are going to do something, that thing that they are talking about means that there are people who are going to benefit from what that person or that politician is aiming to do. But on the other hand, there are people who are going to be affected by what that politician is aiming to do. And it means that people will vote for that politician because they believe in what that politician is aiming to do. Don't take me wrong. These days, you face politicians, opponent, who you may feel like most of them are not great. You don't see anyone to vote for. But because by law you have to vote, you end up voting for one that you think, if I take the example of Trump, there are those who voted for Trump because they felt that Biden and his party was supporting what Israel is doing in Palestine. So some people had these feelings to think that, okay, in this case, they might have to vote for Trump, hoping Trump will come with different decisions, but he continue with what Biden was doing. And that can be a disappointment for the person who voted for that particular reason. But remember, when he was campaigning, he was also talking about supporting Israel and see Hamas and other groups as bad or terrible groups. So that's what I meant by sometimes you might end up having two politicians to choose one between the two, and you like none of them. And that's how it has become, because a lot of countries now have only two big political parties that go neck to neck between them. You might not like these two parties and what they're aiming to do, but you are forced to vote for them. So now we are going to look at some of the policies or some of the decisions that Trump and his government have implemented. Number one thing that Trump has spoken about and is always talk about is America first. You have this idea of nationalism. When we are talking about America first, you are talking about America before anybody else, right? right? It means that before Americans serve other nations, they have to serve themselves first. You would think every country is like this. You would think every individual person is like this. It's like this idea of when you are on a plane and the worst is about to happen and you are carrying a baby. There's a question that asks, who do you put a mask first? Is it the baby or is it yourself? Because you are now going through a process where your life and the baby you are carrying is in danger, and you have to serve you and the child. So who do you serve first? You serve yourself first. The reason for that is that if you serve the baby first, you may not be able to serve yourself. And if you may not be able to serve yourself, do you think that baby will survive on her own? The chance is not. But if you serve yourself first, after you put a mask on your mom, you will then fight to put a mask on the face of that baby. Because you are carrying that baby, you do everything you can to protect that baby in other forms. You try your best to put the mask on that baby. Even if the plane fell into water or somewhere, you can even share your mask. But if you put the mask on that baby in the first place and the worst happened, that will be the end of it, because the worst will continue to happen after you and the baby will not survive. So America first. Serve yourself first. A nationalist is to be able to serve your country first. Forget about every other countries. Yes, the Bible says love your neighbor just like the way you love yourself, right? Whether you agree with that statement or not, and whether you understand what it means. And I think people usually think that everything you do for you, then you have to do it for the other neighbor. No, it just means that, think about your relationship with others. Think about the things that can cause you pain when you bring them to somebody else. They can also affect them as much as they affect you. In that sense, you have to understand what other people go through. So America first. This may seem to be a very simple word, America first. When we say America first, it doesn't just mean love America. It means bring jobs to America. If there were companies in the US that were operating somewhere else, bring those companies in the US to serve the citizens of the US. Make America great again, right? But the USA becoming a superpower and implementing this ideology of democracy and globalization, these international relations and political terms means valuing the relationship that a country has with other countries around the world. That's how the world has been functioning. The relationship between countries, how they exchange goods, how they exchange education. It means what I said from the beginning. Don't think it's just about what is happening in your country, but to think about what does that mean to the other country. It means that McDonald's is a USA company, but when you go worldwide, you found these restaurant. But when you bring this idea of America first, is kind of like, you know what, we like being there, but first we have to bring that to us. There are those who don't agree with this idea of globalization. There are people who think that they should focus on their country and make their country great, whether that's a good thing, whether that's a bad thing. So that's the first idea that the US of Trump believe in. Remember, we are looking at policies and decisions that Trump has implemented or aiming to implement that can have an impact on the US and other parts of the world. One of the biggest policies that Trump stood for today, even in his first term, is to deport people who are in the country illegally, people who are in the country who shouldn't be in the country. And the interpretation depends on Trump and his government, because there are many people who are being deported today as we are talking for small faults. Let's say somebody driving, but the driving license has expired, right? This person will face deportation mainly because that person is not from the US. Yes, he has broken the law, just like any other citizen in the country can break the law. But the question is whether that can actually cause a person to be deported. So he has been deporting many people. In his first term, his government was even taking young children and put them in cells, separate them from the parent. And in this second term, he has continued. This time he has come with a different strategy where where people are arrested. And when you look at the pictures of how people are being deported, you think they are not just normal prisoners, but dangerous prisoners. Yes, some people may not have the right documents to be in the USA, but when you look, the data show that even the innocent or people who shouldn't be deported are being deported just for the sake of this policy where Trump is trying to make America first. After we look at all these policies Trump is implementing, we will look at where is the wrong. Is Trump wrong? Is the countries of those people wrong? Are the people themselves wrong? Who is wrong? Who's right? We will look at that. You can see this already affects individual people. Some of these people are people who have passed through very difficult part of life and leave their countries because there's no hope. They have tried to do everything in their countries. It does not work, and then they end up going through different road to the point where they will get to US. But after years, some of these people have lived there for years, and some of them have broken the law. Some of them, if they have no document for them to be there, again, still they have broken the law, because if you are in a country without the right paper or document, you have already broke the law, right? But you have also those who I mentioned that for small issues, even if they have a document, they may be on a student visa, but they will fall into this problem. So there are those who came from area of life where they were proper struggling, and because of this struggle, they found themselves in the US. Although there are also those who have a lot of money and spend the money to take themselves there, who have paid illegal people who works to transport people into the countries such as the US and many other countries around the world. So number one action has been deporting people. And like I said, this is not just deporting people who are in a country without the right document, but they have been a student deported as well. And the student are being refused visa. Many people are being refused visa. And one of the reasons is that Trump wants to limit the number of the people that should come in the US. Ideally, that's what it is. Another policy that Trump has taken that have had an impact in the world has been to cut the funding. The US found a lot of projects around the world. Missions like peacekeepers. Peacekeepers are soldiers in the UN, right? And what they do is, if there is a country that is in the war, they will send a group of those soldiers there to help protect the civilians. Or a country that has been through war and there is insecurity, they will send a group of soldiers. The UN or the United Nations is an organization run by the world where many countries come together, contribute to this organization, and then this organization will carry different missions around the world. If a country is faced with the wars and conflict and things like that, they will use these soldiers. Soldiers are contributed by different countries to form these soldiers of peacekeepers. Right? The USA is one of the biggest contributor of this mission, and as you know, a big organization like this, it requires a lot of money, because even those countries that send their soldiers, they have to get something in return. There have to be some form of payment. There are soldiers who are serving there. They have to be salary of their payment in order to carry these missions. So organization like that, the US say, you know what, we cut our funding. You have organizations such as the World Health Organization, where the US is also a great contributor of the resources. When the US cut the funding, that means a lot of missions that this organization carried will reduce, and people will be affected. Let's say people suffered for HIV. They need some types of medications. Organizations such as those that can provide aid and support to certain countries, particularly poor countries, in order to continue with these missions. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm sure you do. So cut most of this aid around the world, and it has affected many groups. When you cut aid, the idea you can get here is that they have tried to cut aid or money going abroad to help resolve problems there. The government of Trump feel that it's not benefiting directly the US. Another big policy that Trump has implemented or come with is to ban LGBTQ community, and the idea is that Donald Trump and his party comes from religious side. They don't believe in this idea of gay, lesbian, or different genders. They believe that we were only created as a man and a woman. Trump and his party don't believe in saying you were born as a girl and then you reach at a particular age and you now decide, oh, you know what, I want to become other gender. And it doesn't matter your explanation. I don't want to get into the idea of what people go through to change these genders and so on. What I'm explaining is that just like many other people around the world who still don't agree with this idea of changing the gender, changing the sex, you know, a man and a man being in a relationship, a woman and a woman being in a relationship. So Trump government don't agree with this, and this is mainly because they believe in what we have always believed as a human being in years. Remember what I was saying, that change comes with this idea of politics. You come to understand that certain things that Trump has come to change, things that were never there before, and then certain politicians and lawmakers come and change them, and now people will have the right to be this and that. And then when Trump comes and say, no, we don't want this. Let's go back to where we came from, where we started. So you can see what I was saying, how politics play a role in our lives and how we, the society, can be moved from one side to another because of this political thing. You'll be forced to accept certain things that you don't even accept or you don't believe, or you'll be forced to agree with the things that you don't agree with. Let's say if you don't agree with this idea of lesbian and gay, when there is a policy in the country that comes in place that push everybody to agree with this policy, then you see your behavior straight away change. And then when another president comes who is against this policy, he will change this. He will take us back to say, no, this is totally wrong. That is what has happened. And the USA is one of those countries that has fought so hard in terms of democracy. People have to be who they want to be. And there have been a great agenda to encourage people of LGBTQ community to come out, to seek for their right, to fight for their freedom. All these years, the USA and many European countries have been doing just that. And they force many other countries around the world to obey this. There are even countries that don't receive aid or help or cut tie with certain countries because they don't accept this. They don't agree with this idea of LGBTQ community, right? And this has been done in many countries, particularly African countries, countries in Asia, and other parts of the world. So when this happens, it affects people individually, countries, groups, organizations that are helping, encourage, or support this group of people. Straight away, when Trump comes in power, he says, no, I don't agree with this. We don't believe in this. And what he did is to cut help, to cut the money being invested, because there was data that showing that the US has been sponsoring some of these groups. It means that people are being encouraged to change genders, to become gay and lesbians, and money will be sent to encourage these activities. And these are information or things that are said by the government of Trump. And he comes in and says, we don't believe in this, we shouldn't be doing this. If somebody's born a girl, he's just a girl. There's no way that person can go after 5 years and change it to be a girl. And then years later, that person want to be a male again, want to change again. He declined that. They refuse that. They don't believe in that. Therefore, they have to cut the founding. And like I said, it affects people. But remember, you also have to know when this is being implemented for people to accept these things, there are also people who are being forced to agree with this. Let's say, for example, you are a Christian, right? And your daughter comes and say, I have a girlfriend. You think about that story when somebody just said that for the first time. You have raised this young girl as your daughter and you're hoping one day she will have a husband, have a kid. Before you know it, she come out and said, I have a girlfriend. This can have a negative or positive impact on the family because it brings something that perhaps the family were not prepared for, and the parent may be forced to accept this. It doesn't mean that the parent agree with what is happening, but because of this law and policies encouraged by perhaps politicians, or whether that is the right thing, then the relationship of that family will never perhaps be the same. So that affect people. And when the Trump comes and undo this again, will affect people. Because you have those who have been raised knowing that you can become who you want to be, and there are those who have been encouraged to come out to be who they wish to be. But once they they are who they want to be, then they are not accepted by the society. And you see this when it comes to this group of people, where people and policies encourage them, but in the reality, when they are out there, the society not accepting them as perhaps as they should. This will be a topic on its own, but I just wanted to give little explanation on how people see things differently and how politics change. Today something, tomorrow something else. So this is another big decision that Trump has taken. And if you look, the US has a great number of people within this group of LGBTQ community. Many in that country and many worldwide are now affected, particularly with the cut of those funding. Another policy that Donald Trump has put in place is cutting visas to other countries. Trump released a list of countries that they will cut visas. Some countries have to pay for visas, while others, their citizens, are not accepted to travel to get a visa. If you are a citizen of a particular country, it becomes so difficult to get a visa to go to the US. It was already difficult to travel to the USA because when you prepare a journey to the US, the process that you go through is often very difficult. But now they have made it even more difficult, including cutting visa for certain countries. Certain countries will not get visa to go to the US. That's another big decision that Trump has taken. Remember what I said, most of all these things are being done to limit the number of foreigners coming to the US. Another policy recently seen is the increase of tariffs and tax. This is an ongoing thing. You have seen the tariffs and tax war between China and the US, where the US increased tariffs on China. China retaliated, increased tariffs to the point where, as we are recording this episode of the podcast, Trump just backed up a little bit on this matter. And Trump has done this to many countries. And according to Trump's argument is that they are not just taxing countries just randomly because they don't like you. What you hear him saying is that, listen, if you are taxing us 40%, we may also tax you 40%. Or if we are paying 40% for good coming from your country, we might also tax you, if it's not 40%, 45%. That's the argument you hear Trump making. But all these things I'm mentioning, he has pushed them in these last few months. Remember, we are in April and Trump was sworn as a president in January. Just within these few months, he have already implemented all these policies at once, which means it creates issue with China, created a problem with many countries. Remember all the other policies that he has already implemented. All this is happening in a very short period of time. Whether this is good or whether this is bad, you tell me. But everything just becomes fast. Just like Trump came with a list of what he was going to achieve almost in a period of time. And some of these things have backfired, has not gone the way that he thought this could go, because it's like having a war with everybody. And the USA being a powerful country as it is, we call it a country, but this is almost like a continent. It's a group of countries referred as a country. So these actions have been done at once and having impact on many countries, and many countries are not happy about this and have also responded strongly. For example, what I said about China, and in terms of visa, you have seen Namibia that also implemented it for Americans to pay for visa to go to Namibia. Americans benefit going in many countries without visa, but this small country comes and says, listen, if you want to make it difficult for us to get a visa to your country, or if we have to pay to come to your country, you also have to pay to come to our country. In contrast, you should be the one to pay because you probably have more money than us, so you have to pay as well. Remember, this story has gone all over, and I don't think this story has gone all over because it is something that is wrong to do, but it's because they are looking at the power of the US. A small country like Namibia also responded the same way a powerful country would respond. Although when you look at it, it should be that way, right? If a government is charging your citizen to get to its country, why can you not do the same? That's the question. I understand behind the scene, some countries benefit this privilege of going into countries without visa because these countries send more tourists. But what I'm saying is, just like Trump is saying, if you charge us, we charge you. It's not saying countries cannot not do that. He's just doing what he can for his country. Whatever you do in your country, that's your business. A new policy that also have been implemented by Trump's government is the closure of embassies around the world. And as we are talking, there have been a selection of almost 30, many being in Africa. According to Trump, some of these embassies are not bringing the value for money. They are spending there. Remember what I mentioned earlier is that originally Trump is not a politician. He's a businessman, right? On the other hand, you may say that he's running the USA like a business. When you look at politics, even if you didn't think it this way, you come to understand that it's also a business because it's about interest. Again, when you hear a country talking about friendship, or a politician being a friend with another politician, it's not a relationship that you and I have, but this is more to do with interest. They see benefits, and that's what it's all about. The only difference is that Trump does it like an ordinary citizen, how you take a decision, how you say things. He says things as they are. There's no roundabout. If he want to shout it to you, he will shout. If he want to tell you that's wrong, that's right, it is what it is. We'll elaborate on this later on. So Trump closing embassies in different countries, and you have to understand that when you close an embassy, it's almost like cutting a relationship with that country, because politically an embassy represents the presence of a country in other countries, and even though this benefits mostly the people of a country that has an embassy, let's say for example, if you take the embassy of France in Zambia, it means that whenever there is French people in Zambia, this is just like their government. If they have any problem, all these citizens of France who are in Zambia, this is where they will go. This is what the embassies also operate for in the country, is to serve the citizen of that country that has an embassy in a particular country. So when you close an embassy, it's not just that this country is reducing its presence or its relationship with the other country, but it also means that the citizen of that country may struggle to receive help, and they might have to think twice before going to that country, because if you are somebody who wish to travel and you know that your country don't have an embassy there, you might have to think twice before you travel to this country, because if you face a problem, then you may not be able to find help. You see what I mean? Like, this can be a breaking of a relationship with that country. Yes, Trump and his government may be right. They want to save money. You don't want to be paying money just like some poor countries does. They will have an embassy in a particular country where there's not even their citizen paying a lot of money there, but in return, the country is not benefiting enough. So in that sense, that country might be losing. But with a powerful country as the US, with all these resources that they have, you might think, is this necessary? Or they're saying goodbye here. Even if you have your embassy in their country, it's like a friend who often come to your place, and you often go to that friend's place, and sadly that friend stop coming to visit you for their own good, but straight away you think that this might be a message, because this means that he doesn't want me to go to his place as well. In that sense, you have to choose whether you do what is good for you as well, or whether you try to convince this friend to try to come visit while he's not visiting. Is there a problem? Something else Trump has implemented or wants to be, he said that he wished to be known as a peacemaker. It means that Trump don't want to see wars and conflict around the world. Remember what I said? This is a businessman. You want people to take the responsibility of making their own countries better. Let's do business and make a countries work. So all these ideas of wars, you know what? We are not interested. You can see from this example, the war between Russia and the Ukraine. We have recently done an episode on that, where we looked at whether World War III can be the solution of the war between Russia and the Ukraine. Just before President Trump came to power, he was saying that he wasn't interested in continuing with the war. The US is one of the biggest contributor that supports Ukraine in the war against Russia, and the government of Biden promised that they will support Ukraine until the end of the war. But Trump comes in and says if he was in power or he was a president, that war would have never taken place in the first place. Therefore, he wants to end that war as soon as possible. To understand much on this topic, check that episode 7 To wrap this up, he promised that he was not going to continue supporting Ukraine militarily to continue with the war. What he can do is to bring Ukraine and Russia to the table so that they can come to some form of agreement. Yes, as we are talking, those talks don't seem to work. Both parties are making it difficult to what Trump thought. He thought that it was just going to be so easy to end this in a short period of time, and promised to cut military support, and that can also be part of aid that I was talking about. Remember when I mentioned about the US sending money abroad that is not bringing back a lot of benefits. Some of the biggest money that they spend, a part of the organization I mentioned. You also have NATO. NATO is a bloc that has 32 member countries, and the US again is the biggest contributor in terms of money and other resources, even though the majority of the countries in this organization are European countries. And Trump comes in and says, no, this cannot continue, right? So Trump is not willing to continue to protect Europe and threatening to withdraw from supporting Ukraine. When Trump talking about being a peacemaker, he went to Israel where he was able to discuss how they can find a peace between Israel and Palestine. Even though he has taken these steps, he was also talking about taking Gaza and also fighting Houthis in Yemen. I'm not trying to say that if somebody said you want to be known as a peacemaker, that means you will never fight, because as soon as you say I want peace, you always find people who now want to attack you because you don't want to fight. The government of Trump and the government of the Republic Democratic of Congo also making a mineral deal, and one of the idea here is to end the ongoing conflict that has been taking place in the DRC, the invasion of Rwanda to the DRC, and the support of different rebel groups so that they can continue to take the minerals of the Congo. Trump comes in and said this is enough. This conflict should end. Every country should develop itself, like I have mentioned, and every country territory should be respected. He's not interested in that war either. You want to end that war as soon as, and do business with the Congo where other countries in the region can benefit. You can come to understand that when he says about being known as a peacemaker, you can see truth there because of the step he has taken so far. And whether you agree with this or whether you don't agree with this, the step they are taking may not be great. In some sense, you may not agree with them, how the discussion with the president of Ukraine was managed. I'm not saying everything that he has said or the policy he has taken are great, but I have just been explaining what he has done so far or what he wished to do and who he wants to be known for. Finally, another thing that Trump has done is some of these talks that take place between the US government and other government in the world. Normally, most of these talks take part behind the scene, but for the first time, we've seen Trump inviting the media and the population to be able to see how these talks run. Remember what I said, the talk between Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and Trump and his government. This talk was live on the television. Even when Macron, the president of France, even when the prime minister of the United Kingdom went there, you can see the frustration. You can see how they respond, how they ignore questions. This was really wonderful to watch because often they discuss these things behind the scene. You don't know what is going on there. You don't know whether this president from small countries, when they go to this meeting, they bully them, how they treated them or mistreated them. But this was great to see, and the entire world saw this event and they took something out of it. Yes, this was not the entire discussion, but it was wonderful to see. And from now, we finish talking about what Trump has implemented, is willing to implement, and we can now conclude. In our conclusion, we will look at what these steps that Trump has taken mean to the world in general. What is great or what is not great about them? What can countries do? What does this mean? So now let's look at that. In conclusion, we can start by saying that the steps that Trump has taken, they are steps that any human being can take, because Trump is not like a politician, but he's more like a businessman or a normal citizen who does not take decisions based on a political ideologies or strategies. Yes, he can still operate this way because he's in the politics, but the reality is that that the way he does things is just like the way you and I can do things. President Trump take a decision based on what he believes and what he think, how he feel. You can go on a particular day where he's happy, he will take a particular decision. And if you visit him on a day that is not happy or you didn't entertain him, then the decision he might take or the things he might say will not be the same as the things that he said when he was in the right mood, when he was happy, or when you treated him right. And that is one of the biggest things that Trump differentiates himself from the politicians of the world. People, when they are talking about being sick of politics, being tired of politics, like what I was saying from the beginning, not interested in politics, there are people who don't even want to go to vote, right? Because the nose is like you are voting between a lion and a cheetah. Both of these animals are animals that if you go close to them, they will finish you. And that is what is making people being tired of politics. People vote to two people, but behind the scene, these are people who are sitting and drinking and laugh together. And some people feel bad about this because people are so used to the politics of game. You've seen this a lot in the media where politicians are being asked questions, and a lot of it you don't actually really get the answer, right? They will be asked a particular question. Are you in Burundi, right? Have you spent the money? And they will give you a long explanation. Even that explanation itself, in order for you to get an answer, you have to read books, to read magazines. You have to get into research for you to understand what they meant, when these people should be communicating a simple language as they are just communicating with citizens. And among these citizens, you are talking about all different sort of citizens. People who are not really educated to a particular level, people who have a different way of thinking or collecting information, but this will be made difficult. Trump doesn't operate that way. If you look some of the Trump supporters, there are some of the people that you think they don't have an idea about how politics or anything like that works. You listen to them and you think, wow, they don't even know sometimes what they're supporting. And that in one way or the other can be a great thing. It means that he speak their language. He speak a language that almost everyone, including people who have forgotten this is great, although this itself can be a challenge with those who already see everything should be managed politically. On one way, it's a clash with the politicians who are so used to manipulate information, to manipulate people, to lie, to go behind the scene. That to them is a challenge. But for people who just want to see things as the way they are, this is a happy moment. This is a good thing. Like the example I gave you, where the holding talk and the media is there, the people are watching it, where they can see different behavior, how our politicians behave behind the scene, how they treat others behind the scene as ordinary citizens, is something that we love to know or to hear. Don't come give us promises that are not going to be done. And a lot of supporters of Trump love him because of this. I remember in his first term, he promised to build the wall, and he started building the wall. He never finished that wall, but he started doing it. He did most of the things that he was saying that he was going to do. And this is what ordinary citizens expect from politicians. But the reality is, politicians tell people what they want to hear, and the people are so used to that. So now let's look at some of these points that we have raised in terms of where Trump is deporting people all over the world. What we know is every country don't want people who are in their country illegally, even though countries should take in consideration that people go through difficult and through different routes in order to get to where they are. They should have some understanding. But the reality is that you are breaking the law. Whether you're going through hard time, it's difficult where you are. It is difficult to blame the person or a government that is dealing with these people, and every country always tries to remove people. Maybe the wrong thing could be the step that is being implemented to remove people. And one thing we can say on this particular matter is that, let's say for example, you deport people to their countries, but you are the cause of the problem of these people. I have said that some of these developed countries have been the main cause why poor and developing countries are poor and are not developing. Listen to other podcasts that we have done in the past. We have had a discussion about this matter. Developed countries have been great contributor of the poverty and the hard time that poor countries faces because they have saved themselves. So if you can deport people to go back to their poor countries, you also have to do something to allow those countries to prosper. But if you want to deport people to go to their poor countries and you still put policies that affect that country that is not great, whether it's Trump who implemented it or whether it's somebody else, right? I'm I'm not gonna get into this idea of trying to understand these people, this. No, my fight is usually that developed countries should do things that can make sure that poor countries stand on their own feet. Developed country not to be the main reason why these countries are struggling. And in this sense, the US is doing what is best for them. And the US have the right to do that. And I think every country should do the same, should look at what is great for them. The only problem I can have is, like I said, if the USA is still intervening or still going in the other countries to try to put their hands in those countries to make those countries not do what they want to do for their citizens. Do you get what I'm saying? But if the USA want to deport some of the citizens of your country, yes, probably these people are suffering because the government of that country has not also taken measure to create an environment that can help people remain in their country. I already mentioned how the other developed countries are affecting countries and government. Like I said, I already done an episode about this. But I think what Donald Trump comes with is to give countries the responsibility to take things in their own hands. Whether you like it or not, the reason why we say Donald Trump is a good enemy is that an enemy is somebody who tell you what you don't want to hear, but the truth, right? You can have a friend or a good friend who will come to you and lie to you or play politics behind you. He's not telling you exactly the truth. He's telling you that he will help you, but the day you need the help is not there. I would rather have somebody who just tell me, sorry, I won't be there. I'm sorry, I don't like you. I'm sorry, I don't want to continue with this relationship. I'm sorry, there are so many people from your country who are here and they shouldn't be here. Take charge and the responsibility to take your people, because if you are not taking them, we will deport them. That is what a good enemy is. We call him an enemy because people see what Trump does. Countries see what Trump does as their enemy. But these are good action of responsibility. This is why we say he's a good enemy. He's telling you what you don't want to hear, but the truth. You've seen the story of people were crying about this fund that the USA was cutting and people were all over. You know, the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, said something. He said, no, that is their money. I don't know why you are screaming and this and that and that. That is their money. You have to think about what is in your pocket. You cannot continue to live hoping every day that somebody else has to come save you. Remember, we often say that this idea of aiding many poor and developing countries has destroyed these countries. These countries have been developing in a way that they have to ask for help. They have to seek support almost every time. The government have become so irresponsible, overspend money on elites or politicians and all these. They will borrow a lot of money, plus it is for themselves, but forget the entire country. They don't do anything for the country. They will send their children to other countries to get treatment. When there is an issue, they will be the first one to run out of the country. So I think if Donald Trump is to help particularly African countries, he should also put a lot of measure that ban all politicians from the poor countries not to have their money in the USA or banks somewhere else there. These politicians who are having a lot of investment out of their countries, all these should be banned. These, I'm sure, can help these people to take the responsibility. It's a shameful what sometimes the citizens of countries go through when they found themselves in other countries, how they're being humiliated. You don't know what it's like to be deported. Somebody has given his life to get to the US, to get to United Kingdom, to get to France. After building a little life, sadly, is deported. This is a person who has left the country of origin many years ago. There was nothing. Now you send him there. That person can end up killing himself or do anything terrible. So it is a matter of responsibility. When the US says, I'm not going to continue providing security to Europe, isn't that a form of responsibility? Why should the US continue to provide security to Europe? Where is Europe? Think about all these European countries. How great they are, how powerful they are, how much money these countries have. Why the USA should continue to be the one to pay a lot of money to provide security for Europe. And if Trump says he's going to cut that security, you blame him? He become a bad person? He become a terrible person? No. Take the responsibility. Trump bring responsibility. right? What I can say is, if Trump increased tariff, also increase tariff. Simple maths. If he's threatening to cut the security, found other alternative ways. Take that as a lesson for you to think that what is going to happen the day that that person will say, I'm no longer interested to help you. This is why a child is raised, grow, and reach at a particular age where either himself or the parent say, you know what, we are no longer going to look after you. You have now grown up, find what you can do with your life. Or here's the money, get married or do that. Or a child will decide and be like, thank you parent, I'm sure I'm old enough now, I have to start my own life. But you consider a continent like Europe for years being protected. It means that the money that they can invest, protect themselves, they have invested in other things. Ignore perhaps the security that they may need. Why? Because they know somebody else will protect them. And I'm not saying that they never protect themselves, but I'm saying that, if they need help, that means what they are putting in place is not enough to protect them. And if you look every aspect of some of these issues we have raised, that is what it is. I know there's places where Trump threatened to take other countries or island or this or that. Those are different topics. But what I'm trying to say is people can take Trump as a wake-up call. This is the way I look. The presence of Trump is somebody who said things as they are. Is somebody who is not playing these political things. It's just somebody who's telling you, no, I don't want to continue supporting this thing that I don't believe in. I cannot let people work to gather money to support something I don't believe or I don't agree with. For instance, when you're talking about peacekeepers, yes, conflict can take a place, but there's always a way we can even tackle some of these problems without that peacekeeping. For example, UN peacekeepers have been in the DRC for more than 30 years, but there have never been a solution in that country. In contrast, the report shows that even the peacekeepers themselves take a part in some of the terrible things that are happening in these countries. Reporters are there and allegations. They're also there for their gain. But if you remove peacekeepers and there's a conflict in Burundi, the powerful countries such as the US, the UK, France, and all these countries, a lot of material and money that is invested in these conflicts are coming from them. So they have the capacity to find out who's responsible, and with just one voice, that conflict will finish. But the reality is that the conflict is also the gain for somebody else. And then we will send these peacekeepers to be there, to walk around. They don't fight. They just see who's doing what, and a lot of money being invested. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be peacekeepers. They don't have a great cause or whatever. Normally, you don't often send peacekeepers where there's a lot of war. Let's say send peacekeepers in Ukraine while those bombs are coming. They won't do that because that's dangerous. They are not there to fight. So they are kind of there to monitor. But why should we let this conflict continue when we are the same who can bring them to an end? We know who is on which side. So these are wake-up call. Trump coming is a wake-up call. Trump take decisions that we don't like, but they are reality. Either behind the scene, somebody else is not telling you. Like I said, this idea of LGBTQ community, there are millions of people who don't support this idea because they believe in something else. You believe that a woman should marry a woman. That's what you think. That's what you believe. But there's somebody else who believes that is wrong. How do you convince that person that you are the one who's right and what you believe is what other people should accept and follow? When for years you have always preached and tell people that a woman should marry a man and a man should marry a woman. These are the questions we raise in terms of understanding. It's nothing to do with one being racist or not. And that is the problem we have. We have been programmed in a way where you can't even question things. When you try to question something, you become racist. That is politics. Horrible politics. Citizens don't have room where they can question things anymore. Everyone is scared to even say something. Somebody once said to me this, "Oh, you sound like a black person. Are you black?" And I said, "What do you mean am I black?" And he's like, "Oh, I apologize. I don't want to be racist." And I'm thinking, listen to this. Even saying are you black or saying you are black, it become a racist thing? Or if somebody say you are white, it become a racist thing? No. The intention of what somebody can do or whatever, that is what can be interpreted differently. But if somebody say, I don't believe in this, I don't agree with this, therefore I cannot support this, does that person become a racist? Yes, from presidential perspective, when you are president, you are a president of everybody. But I'm saying this in general. Remember what I said, Trump operated like you and I. He takes decisions based on his feelings, how we think, and this and that. And who voted for him? Who brought him to be a politician in the first place? It's them politicians. They knew what he stands for, and he doesn't make these decisions alone. It means there's a group of people behind there who think the way he does, who believe the way he believes. Now, my call is for countries to take for their responsibilities. My call is for citizens of countries to take for their responsibilities. And a responsibility of an individual person will be to love your country, because where you are from is where you are from. If you found yourself in a different country, you have to always think, I am here, but this is not where I belong. I've always said to people, who you are is what you are, and what you are is where you are originally from. The culture, the traditions of where you are originally from. Always value that, because when you lose that, you lose yourself. Even if people accept you today and you are somewhere else, one day people might not accept you. One day people might say, we know where you came from. We know you don't look like one of us. Who are you? Where are you from? So it is important to know who you are. It is important to know where you come from. It is important to love where you come from. Even if you are enjoying life where you are, you also have to think to make a better life where you came from. Respect that country. Walk with the respect of that country. Do something in that country, because when that country is a country that is functioning in the right way, you never feel ashamed to go back, whether you are going back voluntarily or whether you have been deported. You can still go and continue with your life there. That is on individual level. And on national level, countries have to take a responsibility. A lot of politicians don't tend to take the responsibility. They try to play the game where they fail to take the responsibility and enrich themselves, just look after themselves. They don't want to take a responsibility to think wisely, to send their youths into education and things that matter. China did it a couple of years. Certain countries in Asia have done great. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, these countries are developing. They are copying strategies of other countries to make their countries better. It is until you make your country better, then any other country will respect you. A country won't talk to you somehow. Even if it's the United States of America, you recently came across where Trump was talking to South Africa in a certain way, and the South African president responded. He was trying to telling them about the land, how South Africa is terrible, they are taking the land, and I know this is probably coming from Elon Musk, but South Africa responded and said, don't educate us. This is our land. Focus on your country, because the land you are occupying is not your own land. Who are you to educate us on this? I'm not saying that it's a great thing, it's a horrible thing, or whatever. I'm just saying, when you are proud of your country, you make it better. A lot of politicians in poor countries and developing countries, they don't make their countries better because they know whenever anything happens, they will go to other countries. That's how stupid they are. So in order to see development of many countries worldwide, we need this way of doing things that Trump has presented. And that is the responsibility that we are faced with, to think deep and to take a responsibility of the reality of things. That's what I can say. That's the beauty that Trump brings us. My advice to President Trump and his government is this: you cannot be respected by everybody if people have nothing to benefit from you. What you provide is what makes people rely on you, and that's what comes with respect. Like they usually say, a man gains respect based on what they provide, or is loved based on what he does, what he gave, what he provides. So you cannot expect to cut funding to a country and expect that country will continue to see you as a safe haven or a great master. No, as soon as you cut aid or what you provide to that country will not see you the same. So in that sense, you don't have a say on that country. You don't have the right to command the other countries. So the money that you have been spending, the aid that you've been providing, all these things that you are taking back, that's why a lot of countries and a lot of people look on the US. That's what makes you great around the world. In contrast to that, it's like a parent who wants respect but providing nothing. Even the children, the way they will speak to that parent, you can be amazed. It's like a husband who's not providing to the wife. A lot of these wives don't have respect for the husband who's not providing anything for them. But I'm not giving you an excuse to not respect your husband. But I'm just saying, general speaking, this is how the society functions. So this is something that President Trump and his government has to think about, right? Reducing all these supports in different countries will reduce the impact of the USA in the world, unless you have a different method of how you are going to work with this government. When you close an embassy, you remove your presence in that country. What is the alternative? Are you saying goodbye? Do you still want other countries to have democracy, which is not theirs, is your democracy, even when they are not benefiting anything else from you or from that democracy? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Are you gonna continue to have the UN there? What will be the purpose for these countries to come to the UN, gather, give a speech, say things, an organization that you created, or other organizations that you have created? So what the US has done around the world, that's what makes the US great. In this sense, you also have to know that the position of the US may be lost here on a world scale. And if that is something that you are ready to give up, then no one can blame you. But that is the cost that comes with it. If you often provide for people and sadly you decide that you are going to take what you often give people, it often creates tension with the countries or with the people. And that's the frustration you see around the world. But personally, I like it, as it provided this country with the responsibility to think, because often an enemy is somebody who can say things to you that you try to defend yourself and you won't be happy about. But when you sit it down, you come to realize that what that person is saying is true, or what that person is saying can motivate you to do better. And that's what Donald Trump to the world is. So people or countries should not cry too much, but should take responsibility. What Trump is doing is in his right in terms of him and his government. The question is, what can you do about it? And that is on a country level and individual level. It's also up to you to think about it. Don't just be angry. Oh, I cannot go to US, or they have blocked my visa or whatever. Yeah, they have the right to say you're not coming in our country. So what can you do about it? Find a way to be a contributor to your country. Make your country a better place, because trust me, they're not cutting all these benefits to every country, but they are starting with your country because your country don't provide much benefit to them. They have no respect for your country. That is why that relationship is being cut, because they don't have a lot they can gain from your country. If you make your country a better country, then your country will become attractive and people will think twice before they take a decision. I'm sure you understand why we say Donald Trump is a good enemy. I thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation, and you won't forget to spread it with others depending on where you are following this podcast from. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on TikTok, and we are on YouTube. Just type Andunda Tree. We also have a website which is andundatree.com, or type www.andundatree.com. Once again, my name is Balozi, and until next time, one love.